There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you like.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. This is your March rundown, and as always, is your host Anthony Merchant here with you with another episode. Thank you so much for checking it out. Been quite a month, I would say, for the show. You know, I know we're a couple months into 2021 now, which in itself is crazy. But, you know, we had our little break there, and I think our first episode back was like last week of February. And, you know, we kind of took it easy in the beginning right before I took the break. You know, we did the unpopular music opinions with Zach and Kyle, and I talked about my favorite albums of 2020. But, you know, fairly quiet on the guest front, you know. I mean, besides having Zach and Kyle, who I always love having on, you know, kind of started the year fairly quiet and slow. And I think this month was really like our first real month at it. You know, I know we missed a chunk of January and a chunk of February. And yeah, this one felt like I finally feel like we're really back into it, you know, like really getting back in. Like I wanted to get back and do an episode after our break, you know, just to kind of like check back in and everything. But yeah, this month feels like we're actually like legitimately back to doing things. You know, I'm regularly on our social media and all that good stuff. I do feel like, too, I don't know if you follow us, and if you're not, you know, at Power Chord Hour, I'm not going to sit here and plug shit all night or whenever you're listening to this. But yeah, I feel like Instagram, of all of them, I try to post on there the most because I feel like that one's the most fun and I get the best like interactions, you know. But I don't know. I feel like I need to give our Twitter more love. I feel like I sometimes forget about that one. So I need to like get on Twitter more. But Instagram, you know, I've been back on there doing a lot. I've been hitting a lot of people up for guests. And it's a good thing too, you know, sometimes, and I don't lie, I've said it on here, there's definitely times where like, I don't know if there's a guest next week or like what I'm doing in terms of that, you know, just in the sense of like, hey, sometimes I have guests, sometimes I do solo ones. So, you know, I'm not running around freaking out a lot if I don't have guests, because it's like, I'll just do a solo episode. Like, that's cool. And, you know, most of the time I'd rather have a guest, but again, if I have to, I'll do solo, and I have fun doing it. I enjoy doing these rundowns every month by myself on here. You know, every now and then we have a little guest, but, you know, I enjoy doing these myself. But anyway, no, lately I've, with guests, I've been a couple weeks ahead. We've had a few. I actually have one that I just did in studio again, first time since last July, and actually with the same guest, Joey Cobra, who we had on last July. It was funny because I hit him up, and I really meant to have him on again sooner. You know, he's like Zach and Kyle, where it's like, you know, yes, he is a guest, and I mean, including with Joey, because like with Zach and Kyle, you know, I don't really interview them. Like they come on and we all just kind of talk and bullshit, and we're all kind of equal. Though, you know, I don't know if we're all equal though. I have to give credit to Kyle, and I think I said this on the Dogs Eating Dogs episode earlier this month, but like, he kind of started steering the ship of the show at times where I probably should. Like, I realize it's my show, and I should be like the host who's like steering the conversation and like moving along when we start getting repetitive, or like, you know, just start talking about dumb shit that you know, has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I am extremely guilty when I get on with those two. It's very easy to just go down some weird ass roads and just continue visiting them. And you know, Kyle a couple times stepped in a good way. I don't mean this like in like, oh, that motherfucker overstepped his boundaries. No, he stepped in and like continued the flow of the show, and I really appreciate that. But I love the dynamic of me, Zach, and Kyle. That's why I always have them back on. But with Joey, we just did another one, and he's a guy, you know, because he's here in Jamestown. I would love to get in studio more, you know, because obviously when I do, even with Zach and Kyle, everything's you know, over the phone, and to be able to get in studio one-on-one is absolutely great, including WRFA, which actually I'm recording this one at home today. Just a little bit easier. Decide to be lazy and not go down to the studio. Actually, that's not true. I have to go down there to work on stuff later, but I thought I'd just record this one at home. But I love those studios down at WRFA. It's always a great hang, and it always has been. I love I love radio stations and just hanging out in them. Like it's always such a treat when there's like other DJs or just whoever's around to just come and talk and stuff. Like my buddy used to go by Alexander the Great, used to do Saturday Night Fire on WRFA and did all like old school hip hop. And it was really, really cool show. He did that, Power Chord Hours Friday nights. He did that Saturday night in the same time slot. So we're like the nighttime weekend guys there. And going in and just like bullshitting, like, you know what I mean? Like doing our shows, like there'd be times he just like sit in while I record the Power Chord Hour and then vice versa. And then sometimes we just jump into, like, I'd have him just like jump on and be like, hey, like, like what's up, man? Like here's a quick segment. And there's just something so fun about that and just fun hanging out in the studio and stuff. So, anytime I can get an interview in there, I love it, and it is hard. It's like, I know with COVID, everyone's kind of doing the phone interview thing, but it's like, I kind of do that anyways, just because of location. Jamestown is not particularly even without COVID, this is not like a huge touring area and stuff. We don't have a whole lot of punk bands in the area and everything. So Joey is also a breath of fresh air because he loves pop punk. He plays pop punk, and he plays music too that I would like even if he didn't live in town. You know what I mean? Like I'd be playing him whether or not he lived in Jamestown. But the fact that he lives here and can come into the WRFA studios and just hang out is absolutely fun. And it was an interview, but it was also just a hang. Like last time it was kind of a mix of both as well. But it was like, we had him in. He's not really releasing anything at the moment, but he's working on stuff. But he's released stuff since he was on last July, so we got into like that, and he's also an artist. So like I was really interested. Like we got into, and I won't talk about too much. You'll hear this next week. We'll be airing my interview with Joey Cobra, and if you haven't heard that yet. I don't know what number episode, but it's from July of last year. We had him on and talking about his EP that he just released and his old band Wake as well. Really great pop punk band from here in Jamestown, New York. And I kicked myself because I didn't hear about them until after they broke up. And forever, it's like we have a great music scene in Jamestown, but it's not geared towards like punk or pop punk. Like not really a lot of the music that I play on this show, basically. Like we have a lot of like jam bands, a lot of, I'd say, like acoustic singer-songwriter, and I don't know so much now, but it may be outdated. I'd say maybe even like 10 years ago at least, though. A lot of like metalcore bands and stuff, and that may still be the case. But, nothing wrong with it. Like, we have a strong music scene. It's just not a lot of the stuff that, like I play here on the show. So, like to hear about Wake and discover them and stuff, I was like kicking myself. I'm like, man, like they were playing shows around here. I could have went and saw them. But, Joey is still he was a frontman in Wake and making great music now. But he's also an artist too. And like we were talking about like being able to paint on iPads and like digital art and stuff. And it's like, that was very intriguing. Like I know nothing about art. So, we kind of went down that and, down the music path and just talking about tons of stuff. Fat Records came up like it did last time. I think we probably talked tons about Fat Records and, just had a lot of fun. But I wish I could do more like in studio interviews, including once COVID's over. But, it's just tough where I'm at. But maybe I can convince some artists. We definitely have some friends of the show from up in Buffalo who we play quite a bit. And, maybe I can do some convincing and get them down in the studio. That's about like a 90-minute drive. So I don't know. I don't know if I would drive 90 minutes to do the Power Chord Hour. I'm not sure. I have to ponder that in my head for a moment and really think if I would. But I had a great time talking to him. That was earlier this week. I talked to him Wednesday. I'm recording this Sunday evening. Come out Monday. Come out in probably like 6-7 hours after I record this. But I talked to him Wednesday, and just like last time, just such a blast. Where like, I didn't have to prep too much with it either, because it's like I just knew we could talk like last time, and we would just go. You know what I mean? Like we're people who just the two of us can just sit down and talk and it will go somewhere, you know what I mean? And I knew it would happen. So like I really, I prepped enough where I'm like, all right, I want to ask him a few things, I want to make sure we talk about his music and, like get his music and stuff out there, get that information out to everybody. But it's like outside of that, it was a lot of just like, let's just sit back in the studio. And it's easier too. It's harder to do that, I think, on a phone, just doing like a phone call. As much as you try to, But doing it in studio is so much easier because you're just both sitting there. Like, you're both just kind of sitting there, hanging out, looking at each other. You can tell, because that becomes hard too, like talking over each other and shit when you're on the phone. Obviously, you can't see each other's like faces, where it's like when you're in studio, you can see if someone's like, like kind of starting to open their mouth or kind of move a certain way, or, and you can also tell like, are we going on too long about this subject? Should we move on here? So yeah, just great. I'm excited to release that. That'll be out next week. That'll be our first episode of April. But anyways, March though has been great here. And speaking of guests, I mean, I've had such a great time. I mean, if you've missed any episodes from this month, like I said, it's really us getting back into it fully. And I mean, kicking it off with Luke Bentham of the Dirty Nil. Doing that interview was amazing. I mean, the Dirty Nil's Fuck Art is my favorite record of the year so far. And I mean, we're going into month 4. So, so far nothing has taken that spot from them. And there's been some good music released, but nothing to touch that. I will say though, so far this year, and really we are, and I've said it 100 times, but like now's where we start to get more music, like March into April. And I would say more into April, because honestly, like, there was new music released this month, but I feel like there was not as much as normal, as like a normal month. I don't feel like I have as big of a list as I do other months. But what I do notice, there is a lot of good music that's come out this year, but I notice a lot of it is like singles and EPs. Like the Dirty Nil has the best full length, and there really hasn't been much to touch that yet, And I mean, hopefully there is, because it's a good sign. If there's competition, that means there's good music coming out. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of good stuff coming out. That's another thing me and Joey talked about, was kind of anticipated albums and things coming out later this year, which excited me because I kind of wanted to do that anyways on the show sometime soon, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So the fact that like he showed up and was ready and like had albums that he was like anticipating for the year was really fucking cool. So that'll be out next week. But yeah, talking to Luke was just awesome. I mean, I love that record, and to be able to just sit here and bullshit with the guy who wrote it, for an hour and just ask whatever questions I have, as a fan, obviously I want it to be entertaining and be a conversation that people want to listen to. But it's like, I also just, as a fan, have questions, like before I ever knew I was going to, interview him, just listening to the record tons and tons, just thinking of different things, going, wow, like, I wonder how they got that sound, or I wonder what kind of guitar he was playing on that. I'm very curious about those things. I mean, you probably realize that if you listen to interviews on here. I know sometimes I get into like gear and different shit like that, and it's not even that I'm a pro at any of that. I have very like base knowledge, but I know enough where I'm very intrigued by that stuff. Like I do think of things like that when I listen to recordings. Like I am someone who I go like, that sounds like a Stingray, like that bass sounds punchy, like is that a Stingray? And then I start like listening to just weird different things. I remember when we had Stephen Bradley on, Steve Kravick, who has produced Less Than Jake and MXPX and Pepper and 7 Seconds and just tons and tons of great bands. But he produced Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo and Life in General, MXPX. And I remember asking him, because like I just know from listening to those records, like I could tell, or at least I thought on Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo, that Mike Herrera is playing a P bass, which Mike Herrera is known for playing a Stingray. Like he's a big reason I started playing a Stingray. And funny enough, actually, two big artists. Like number one, I like the tone of the Stingray anyway, but the reason I realized how much I loved it was Roger from Less Than Jake and Mike from MXPX. I mean, those to me are like the two big Stingray players in punk rock. And I was going to kind of throw Mark Hoppus in there, because back in the day he did play a Stingray, and I liked his tone back on like Dude Ranch and Enema of the State. But funny enough, I mean, Steve has worked with all three of those guys, who are all like the biggest reasons why I play a Stingray, besides it just sounding so damn good. But I remember asking him, and I am being right, but like one of those things where like just listening to Slowly Going the Way of Buffalo, I go, Mike's playing a P bass. It doesn't sound like his Stingray. And it's like, I had to ask, because like that's just where my mind goes when I listen to music. Like I start listening to those things and I go, that sounds like it's coming out of that kind of amp, or it's that kind of, bass, and I'm a little more that way with guitars, because I think I know more about like bass tones and stuff. I can hear that, I think, better than I can on a guitar. I'm a little more general on a guitar, I would say. But yeah, like, you know, those are the questions that I kind of have in mind, because it's like I'm thinking of that shit long before I'm interviewing someone. And thankfully, really, my guests this month were both great for that, because, I mean, Luke is if you go check out like the Dirty Nil, like their YouTube page and stuff, like, I mean, he does like playthroughs. He does some hilarious videos called Tone Tips, and a bunch of different things. So like he is someone who cares about gear and like knows a lot about it, and like, you know, I know like loves vintage stuff just like I do, like vintage guitars and amps, and, you know, like tube amps and stuff are very important to him, you know, the analog side of it all. So like it's fun to talk to people like that, because, you know, if they don't give a shit, then it's like it's not going to be, you're going to ask them things, they may just be like, yeah, I just used this, you know, it was a, like, you know, 1970 something P bass, you know, like, and that's all you get. But it's like, if they're into that shit and talking about it, then I feel like it makes for a good conversation. And yeah, I think Luke was all about that. He indulged me with those, you know, like letting me ask those questions about like just specific stuff. But he was great. I mean, I felt like he was very candid too. You know, he's very open with shit where like, yes, this stressed me out. No, I was good with this, you know, like just different things. Like, he didn't just lie and just go like, yeah, like everything's great. This was so easy to do. This is our greatest record ever. Like this and that. Like, you know, I feel like he talked very openly about things. And, you know, not like anything was like it was the hardest record to ever record or anything like that. But he was like, nah, man, there was like stuff. There were times where I thought, what the fuck am I going to do for this? Or like, I still have to come up with a solo for this and that. And, you know, and so interesting too, to hear about, you know, recording it just as the world is shutting down. You know, it's crazy to think about. Like, they were recording that just as COVID was like closing everything. I remember that too. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but Joe Normal, who and just put out some new music too. I'm going to play on not on here, but on the radio show later this week. But he was one of our first guests on the podcast. And I was talking to him like the day that Los Angeles was closing things down. And it has to be, I haven't listened to it, like I said, but to go back, just remembering what I remember from the conversation, I'm sure if I went back, it's like us kind of pontificating or whatever, like what's going to happen or how long is this? Because, you know, Joe's definitely a working musician. Like, he's one of those guys where like that was his thing. You know what I mean? Like, he was playing out in Los Angeles like weekly, you know, and he was doing it with his band, the Anytowners. But also props to him, though. He's been releasing tons of music through the pandemic, just even by himself, like doing covers, doing originals, being, you know, is being very active on that way. I think making the best of a situation. But I know he is very much a touring musician, and, you know, plays out and stuff constantly, like, you know, on a weekly basis. So, you know, talking to someone like that as it was closing down, you know, was crazy. And, you know, now we're here. But props to him for doing it. And, you know, go check out, you know, while we're on the subject, go check out his new music. I always enjoy it. His, you know, kind of a mixture somewhere in between Bruce Springsteen and Paul Westerberg, you know, that's somewhere in between, you know, and I think it works. I always enjoy it. But yeah, Luke was awesome. I mean, if you have not listened to Fuck Art yet, go back and listen to that. You know, listen to our interview too, but go listen to Fuck Art. Realize that it's the best album of the year, and then go listen to the guy. You know, no credit to me. I mean, the episode's great because he's great. You know, he wrote a great album and a great interview too. I knew too before, you know, because before I interviewed him, obviously I went back and, you know, I'll go check out other interviews that people have done. And he's always he has such a great personality and always like very charismatic. And again, like open to talk about, you know, a lot of the shit that interests me. So like, I kind of knew that, you know, I thought it would go well, and it really did. I really enjoyed it. He was easy to get along with, because there's times where like, if you look up, like, that's good and bad. I feel like if you look up interviews before, or like people you're going to interview beforehand, because if they're difficult, then it's like, that's going to be in your head. It's going to start to fuck with you. And, you know, but the other way is you go and watch some and you realize how cool they are. Like, I remember looking at like CJ Ramon before I interviewed him. I started looking him up because I'm like, that was just so, it's still my favorite interview I've ever done. And it's like, at the time too, like the fourth or fifth interview I think I ever did. And, you know, I was pretty nervous, but going and looking up videos of him and interviews he did, you could tell he's just a very like down to earth, nice guy. He was very cool. And I think he's someone too. I don't even remember who I was talking to recently, but like, just talking about too how he handles the legacy of the Ramones so well. Like, I think he really realizes what that band means to people, and I think he handles that legacy in a really, really good way. Like, I think a lot of credit to him for, I mean, even the music releases, like, he makes sure that if it's under the, and I think we talked about this too in the interview, but like, if it's under the CJ Ramone name, if you're adding Ramone to that album title, to your name when you're touring and putting stuff out under it, there has to be a quality to it. And I think he hits that. I love the last few solo records he's put out on Fat Records. They're absolutely amazing. But, it can work that way. And I will say, like, not that I thought he would be, like, an ass or anything, but I do remember, like, not even looking them up, but being a Third Eye Blind fan when I interviewed Stephen Jenkins. Like, I mean, he's someone where you can either get a really good, I would say he's almost like Paul Westerberg in the way where, like, I don't know that Paul Westerberg's an asshole in interviews, but he's not going to be the easiest interview, and it can either go uninteresting and because he's disinterested and you'll get short answers and it won't really be much of anything. And, it's kind of, there's just, he's not going to aid you through, basically. Like, there's some people who you could probably, you could be very nervous and they may pick up on that, or, maybe you're just fumbling through or whatever, but they can like, kind of help you through if they see that and, give you a little more of an answer or help direct, the conversation away or kind of see where you're trying to go. But then there's guys like that, where sometimes I think you will get the one word answers, or they'll just, you know what I mean? Like, they'll just kind of let you fumble there. And again, not even in an asshole way. Like, I don't, and Steven was, I thought him being nice. I mean, it was a very short interview. It was like 5 minutes. It's not like I got to talk to him for like an hour or anything like that. But, I just know he was one where I went in almost, not even almost, I will say with 100%. I can't lie. I mean, I was definitely intimidated going in, but nothing that he did personally. You know what I mean? It's not like he answered the phone and said, like, what the fuck do you want or anything like that. It was like nothing like that. It was on my own. You know what I mean? It was my preconceived notions. But again, it's like that. It's the good and bad of that, where if you know how someone is, like, I mean, it would be Paul Westerberg. Like, he would be a dream to interview. But the thing with that is you would need, like, I feel like I would need like a month before I could comfortably interview Paul Westerberg, because I would need time to truly think out things, think about where the conversation could lead, kind of figure it out, because he is someone who I think if you just jumped in and it wasn't, and again, if you weren't asking the right questions, if he wasn't personally interested, he's not going to feign interest. You know what I mean? He's not going to pretend that he's interested or do, like something like that. And I think you also would have to balance things. Like, you sat there and talked too much about the past and replacements, I think he would get sick of that. You know what I mean? I don't think you would just want to do an interview on like the legacy of like, like, I definitely don't think he would ever, I don't know that any of those guys would ever do like an interview. I do like an album anniversary. Like, I don't think any of them would ever sit there and actually, like talk about a record like that. But like Paul's one where I'm like, yeah, I don't think he's someone you just jump in and interview. I feel, and maybe that's the wrong thing. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think he'd be one where I'm like, I got to think about what I'm going to say to this guy. It can't be last minute. It really can't. And I kind of thought about it with Stephen Jenkins. Like, even though I knew it was only like, he had like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? It was very short. He was doing a bunch of interviews. So it's like, just real quick, get him. And then he's gone to the next one. But, even though I knew it was short, I only had like a day. I had like a day before I was going to interview him. And I remember that kind of being like, all right, you got to kind of think of the questions, because it's like, and I tried thinking of like an interesting way to start, like a good starting question and shit. Because again, he's like one where I just feel like he would have not been, he would have given you the one word answer. He would have kind of like shot you down and stuff. He wouldn't have entertained a question if it wasn't something he wanted to talk about. But, he ended up being cool. Again, it was very short, but I remember him giving me a great answer about the music industry that was actually, for a 5-minute interview, I think his answer was like 2 minutes for that one. So it was like half the interview, but it was very insightful, and I still think about his answer to that like 4 years later now. I think almost to the day. I think it was like March or April of 2017 I interviewed him. I think like a month after CJ Ramone, actually. But, just one of those things where, it's good and bad kind of knowing who you're going to interview beforehand. But another one, as talking about guests who I've had on this month, and another one, huge honor to have on. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, I mean, I think I made it pretty obvious that I was pretty stoked to talk to him. But Gordon Raphael, who produced The Strokes, I mean, the Modern Age EP, their debut record, Is This It?, their follow-up, Room on Fire. He produced like 3 songs on First Impressions of Earth. I know he did Razorblade, and I can't remember the other ones. There's like 2 other ones he did, I think, later on. They're like later tracks on the record, like maybe like track like, I don't know, hypothetically track like 8 and track 10 or something like that. But, basically had a hand in everything they did before they broke up the first time. Like the first 3 Strokes record and their demo, he worked on. His hand is in there, and why those records, I think, sound as great as they do and, as neat as they do. I think there's even times on their last record, The New Abnormal, which I love, one of my favorite records of last year, and they were working with Rick Rubin, who I thought who did a great job, and the record sounds great, but I even think there's parts in there where I feel like they were trying to do things that, off the first few records that were things that Gordon did. You know what I mean? Gordon produced them. He had the ideas for how to, make it sound the way it did. And I feel like, once again, he did such a good job that even years later, later producers like someone like Rick Rubin, who, not say he's like ripping him off or anything like that. Rick Rubin is a goddamn, legend. But, I still think kind of went back and borrowed some of the shit that Gordon was doing on the earlier records. Which is a good thing, because those are the best Strokes. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people. The first 2 Strokes records are their best. And I love the last one too. I think that's their third best, is New Abnormal. They really outdid themselves with that. But, and like speaking of anniversaries, like I was saying, like with the Replacements, like I don't think any of those dudes would do like an anniversary interview. And I think the Strokes are another one. I'm like, I was really happy that Gordon was down to do it, because I thought he would be the best one to talk to, because I just feel like, who knows? I really don't think I have the pull on here to get I don't think Julian Casablancas would return my emails, but I don't think any of those dudes, and it would be great to interview them, but it's like I don't think any of them would be into getting into that shit. Like I can't imagine them being into being like, what kind of mics did you use? What kind of guitars did you use? Like really getting into that stuff. I don't think they're really ones to be nostalgic or look back, on something like that and celebrate 20 years. Where Gordon was fucking awesome. Like he was so into it. He was up, all my weird specific questions he was down to answer. He was very very positive about it. Wasn't like, can we fucking talk about something else? Like very, very cool. Like so much fun. And he was a sweetheart even before we did the interview. He was such a nice dude. Like just even talking to him to set it up, he was just so fucking cool and so fucking easy to get along with. And again, like that I love before doing an interview, because I go, he was so laid back and so fun to talk to, even just like messaging each other before that. It's like, oh, he's going to be easy to get along with. Like he's going to be easy to talk to. And it was. I mean, I could have talked to him for hours and hours. I mean, and again, we only really, I asked him just kind of last minute as I was like closing up the interview about Room on Fire, just for a quick second, just about like comparing recording that to Is This It? But we in like the almost 9, I talked to him for I think an hour and 20. It was probably cut down a little once I edited some stuff down, but I talked to him for almost 90 minutes and was just so cool about talking about anything I wanted. But in that time, we basically spent it on the Modern Age EP and Is This It? Because those both turned 20 this year. But again, we could have talked for hours. We could have gotten just to get into Room on Fire, and then to get into producing 3 songs on First Impressions of Earth, why he only produced 3 songs, getting into all those things. It could have been hours and hours. And, but he was so nice with his time. And it's eventually I have to cut it off, because it's he wasn't rushing me. He wasn't like, hey man, I got to go. But it's after a while, you got to kind of be like, oh, okay, he's probably sick of talking about the Strokes, you know what I mean? At some point you probably have a threshold, but, and we didn't just talk about the Strokes. We got into, because that's the thing too. It's we would be doing a disservice to him if all we did was talk about the Strokes. Obviously that was the main subject because those albums turned 20, but he's done so many other things. He's produced so many other bands. He's written his own music and a bunch of great stuff. We played a few, or not a few. I think I played one of Gordon's songs at the end of last week's episode. But on the radio show, I played more because we had we had like an extra 30 minutes after the interview for stuff. So I had him pick some songs. It was really fun. We did that with Luke though too, with the radio show. I guess to kind of entice you. I mean, yes, if you heard the interview on here, it's the same interview. But the last two, there is kind of a fun added component to the radio show because, on here, podcasts are very weird about music. So it's like on YouTube. Like, if you ever listen to this on YouTube, I know it sucks, but I cut the music out almost always because before I even get it up, almost everything gets flagged. Like, even like small, like, and from people who are interviewing, like, this is a person who's on talking about this record, but I get flagged right away because I played songs off that album. So, like, I just say fucking take them out of there. And as far as the podcast anywhere else goes, like, I'll play the songs, but I don't go overboard. Like, we'll throw a couple songs on and that's it. And also I'm like, it's a podcast. Like, we do the radio show. Like, I play 2 hours of music every week. Like, so I keep it for that. I don't feel a need to play music on here too much. You know what I mean? Like, I will say there's some podcasts I listen to and some of them started off more like a free form podcast, like long form interviews and stuff, and became more segmented like a radio show. And I'm just like, dude, I do an actual radio show. Like, I don't need this should be something else. I feel like this should be more free. I don't, I play music obviously on here. I'll play a few more songs, or play a couple songs later on because, we're highlighting new music of the month. But like on the radio show, and I'll shut up now. This is very long-winded answer. Or whatever you want to call it, comment. But with Gordon, what we did was I had him pick, like, he sent me a list of songs of bands that he's produced and worked with, and his own music as well. And I put a bunch of those on the radio show after. And he picked the Stroke songs. I mean, you heard those. He picked those on the podcast too. But on the radio show, we got to play some of his music and a bunch of other bands that he, like, Kill Canada was one, and Satellites, who we talked about. I mean, Regina Spektor, another. I mean, she's huge. She's, the Strokes aren't the only really big one he's worked with too. I mean, Regina Spektor is another one who is pretty damn big. But we played some song and that he picked. He picked the songs and sent them to me, and was really cool. So he basically picked the playlist for the radio show last week as well, which was really, really cool. But yeah, we talked about all that because, again, it's like, Strokes, huge part of his career. I mean, even he said that. It's like, it opened so many doors for him. But it's like, he was a musician long before the Strokes. He recorded other bands before them. He's recorded so many after and, doing his own thing. So I wanted to get into all that. And such an interesting guy, too. I mean, I could have talked to him more just about traveling. Like, I love that he, after the success of the Strokes, moved to, I can't remember now, though. He moved a couple different places. He's in England now, but I think he moved a couple places before moving to England. But I mean, moving all these different places after the Strokes got big, and just really, I think, enjoying life, and even like, now he's just at home remotely producing bands and stuff. But like, he's traveled all over the world to produce bands as well. Like, I think that's so cool. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't just sit in his one studio and bands come to him. Like, all over the world, he's led a very interesting and cool life, so like, I loved it. Like, I mean, it was cool because, yes, we got to talk about the Strokes, and he was up for, getting nostalgic and talking about it, which I thought was awesome. Because, again, I don't think the dudes in the Strokes would be as open to do like a 90-minute interview about, is this it in the modern age EP. But Gordon was so fucking cool. I mean, that was a huge honor too. I talked about it last year. I mean, I love the Last Strokes record, and I love the first two are the gold standard. Those are their best records. Is This It is their best record, I would say. And I mean, this is not a hot take. Most people say that, and a big part of it is Gordon. I mean, listen to the production on it. That was really like when I first got into the Strokes, and I was finally like, oh, I like this band. One of the things that pulled me in, I started listening to production. I'm like, I love this. Like, I'm like, this is so. It's different, like, it's original. And then I started thinking about too, like, how big, and we kind of got into that, but like how big the Strokes got when it's like, again, you didn't hear things like that. You know what I mean? Bands really weren't produced that way. Records didn't sound that way. That's why some people got in, some people didn't. But I think it worked really well too, because here's the other thing. How many indie bands have ripped off the way that Gordon made those albums sound? Like, that 100%, like, and that's why that record, even though it's 20 years old, it's funny because 20 years ago, it sounded outdated to people. You know what I mean? The way that Gordon recorded it, and it wasn't super flashy, and it was a live rock band. But look at it could have been released this year. I mean, Is This It could have been released 2021. Like, it had such a big impact on how bands sound and production and recording and all that in like indie rock that like how many bands like just sound like that now? You know, that album could have came out any time in like the last decade and like would have fit in like at any time just because the impact it had. So I mean, absolute honor talking to the person who recorded and produced those and did such a damn good job. So yeah, I mean, if you missed either of those interviews this month, I had such a good time talking to Gordon Raphael, producer, the Strokes producer, talking Is This It and the Modern AGP for their 20th anniversary, and Luke Bentham of the Dirty Nil talking Fuck Art. Both a great record from this year and a great record from 20 years ago. Was really fun. And now going in the future next week with Joey Cobra talking about his music that he's working on right now. And I can't forget. I mean, another really fun time this month was doing the Dogs Eating Dogs EP episode with Zach and Kyle. And people seem to enjoy them because like they're like, I try to get them on here a lot because it's like I know they're on a lot, but it's like I always enjoy those episodes and I always get good feedback. So I always have them back because I'm like, sometimes I worry because they're so fun and they are so free flowing that there has been times where I'm like, I wonder if people actually enjoy this because it's like we're just bullshitting. You know what I mean? Like yes, we have a topic, but it's like it also divulges because it's just three friends talking on the phone. Like we do them on Saturday nights normally, and it's like we're all just kind of decompressing from the day. They're hanging out wherever in their houses or wherever they're doing it. I'm just kind of hanging out in the WRFA studios, or sometimes I'm recording at home, and we're just like. And we talk like those things already go so long, and then it's like we're talking afterwards too. Like it's not like we hang up the phone at the end of the episode. Like I just cut it because it's like, okay, that's it for that. But it's like the three of us just sit on the conference call for like another hour and talk. I mean, I think I was on the phone with them till like 1 a.m. After doing that Dogs Eating Dogs EP episode. But that one was really fun, and it's hard too because I've done more of those album analysis ones with Kyle just because we go so long that doing a 10 to 12 track album with three of us would take so goddamn long. And I already have to split them up in two parts, which I don't like to do, but if we do like a 4-hour episode, it just has to be. We have to cut it in half, and I throw them up as two-parters, but it's like that would take so long. So I was happy that we got to do an EP so the three of us could do, go do like an album analysis, talk about our views on the, each song and everything. And just had a blast with them. I always do that. Honestly, I never thought I shouldn't say I never thought it would be, but our top 5 Blink-182 songs episode is one of the most downloaded episodes. I don't know why. I don't know if it's for good reasons. I don't know if it's for bad reasons. I don't really give a shit. I'm just happy people are listening to it and seem to enjoy it. But people like when the Illinois bad boys get on here and talk Blink with me, or just pop punk in general, it seems like. So we'll keep that going. We gotta think of something else. That's another one. I gotta say, like, again, like, props to Kyle. He's like the greatest guy to have on here because like not only can he help like steer it, but it's like he's had some really good ideas for the show. He's almost a unofficial producer at times. Like he has great topics we'll bring. Like, we've done episodes where he was the one who brought the idea to the table, and I'm like, that's a great idea. Like, let's do it. So I loved talking Dogs Eating Dogs with Zach and Kyle, and I tried to hold back on the Yellow Wolf jokes, and I feel like I did a good job. You'll have to ask Zach and Kyle what they think. Go find them. You can find them like on Twitter and shit. They're on there. I retweet them and stuff on the Power Chord Hour page. You'll definitely find them on there. I've mentioned them. But you'll have to ask them what they think. I don't know that Kyle agrees, but I feel like I controlled myself with the Yellow Wolf jokes and references. But, maybe I'm totally wrong. So, I'd love to know. Listen to that episode and then email me and let me know if you think I talked about Yellow too much, or if there's just no possible way of talking about Yellow Wolf too much, But and it also, the other thing I love doing about those album episodes too is it makes me go back and listen to things. And it's like the Dogs Eating Dogs EP, I really liked when it came out, but I hadn't listened to in a while. And, I started listening to it to like, write notes and think about the album more before doing the episode. And just really remembered how damn good it was. Like, really reminded me. I'm like, oh my God, this thing has aged amazing. Like, Neighborhoods, I don't think has aged as what. Like, I like Neighborhoods a lot more when it came out. 10 years later, I mean, there's still good songs, but I'd say I like about half the record. Where Dogs Eating Dogs, I'm like, this is pretty damn good. There's only one song on there, and I won't say it because I talk about it on the episodes. You can go listen to that if you want to know what one it is. But there's really only one song on there, and I don't hate it. But I'm like, if it wasn't on there, I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't be sad. Whereas the rest of them, I'm like, those are some really good songs. Those are some really strong songs. And I mean, if you took like 4 out of the 5 songs off Dogs Eating Dogs and then like 5 or 6 songs off Neighborhoods and put them together, that is a solid fucking record. But yeah, that was fun to talk about. I love talking about that stuff with them. I just love talking about pop punk in general. And Blink-182. As much as I don't love the the newer stuff, the Matt Skiba era, though I do love Skiba, they're still one of my favorite bands. I mean, they're still up there. The Replacements are my all-time favorite. And I mean, Blink-182 are basically right there. I mean, the Tom era. I mean, as far as Tom era goes, if I can have 2 favorite bands, Tom era, Blink-182, and the Replacements are my 2 all-time favorites. Plus, I mean, to be fair to Blink, the Replacements are broken up. They can't, I love all their records, and, they can't fuck it up because they're not releasing new music. I mean, maybe if the Replacements was, though I don't know that I believe that, though I don't know. That's a tough one. I've talked about that too on here. Like if the Replacements put out another record, I mean, obviously, of course I'm going to listen to it, but if it would be good or not, I don't know. That'd be interesting. I know they were working on one for a while there when they reunited for a minute, but they said it just wasn't really what they wanted it to be. And again, I kind of respect, I do respect that, to be like, hey, this probably isn't going to be good, so let's not release it. But yeah. So I mean, as far as Blink goes, looking, I mean, if the Replacements got back together and Matt Skiba took over for Paul Westerberg, I mean, I may also be critical of that. I also don't know how that would be. And I mean, including since Paul wrote most of the songs, I don't know. That'd be very interesting. I guess it would end up being just Matt Skiba backed by Tommy and Chris. Yeah, I don't know how that would work in that alternate universe. Maybe I'll have to save that for another episode. We'll go down that road of like in somewhere in the Twilight Zone where Matt Skiba takes Paul's place in Replacements. But yeah. Anyway, we're gonna move on. I know. I'm just I loved the episodes we did this month, so I was very excited about that. We're gonna go back and check out those episodes. But some new music to check out from this month. Like I said, not a huge list, but I would say a decent one here. Devin K and the Solutions. I feel like I bring them up every month. They keep releasing new music, and it's always really, really good. They just put out another single, Parchment and Petroleum, so go check that out. Justin Courtney Pierre of Motion City Soundtrack just put out an Anthropologist on Mars. That is his brand new EP, and really good. I loved his first solo album he put out like 3 years ago now. Crazy to think. But In the Drink, which if you're a Motion City Soundtrack fan, you never listened to that album, go back and check it out. Really, really good. I would say still one of my favorite albums of 2018. It doesn't straight up sound like Motion City Soundtrack, but I feel like it has like the best parts of Motion City in it. And same with this new one, a lot of energy on it. And also shout out past guest Bill McShane played guitar on it, which was very cool. Justin had a great he had Bill McShane play guitar on the new record, Brian Diaz from Edna's Goldfish, and I know he's been like a guitar tech or bass tech for like Fall Out Boy and tons of others. I know Fall Out Boy because I remember he was the tech when I saw Fall Out Boy. I remember him up there tuning Pete's bass. But a bunch of other things. Edna's Goldfish, great band from the 90s, great ska band. And who else? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. From Mr. Brett Guritz from Bad Religion and Epitaph. He produced it, and I think maybe he just did production. Oh no, Tony Thaxton from I'm a dumbass. Tony Thaxton from Motion City played drums. So he has Tony on there, which Tony, I mean, he's really like one of the most underrated pop punk drummers. Like, and I don't know if he would want to be called a pop punk drummer, but whatever you want to call him, just a drummer in the scene, like one of the most underrated, like including on those early Motion City records. Like, you listen to the tempos that they're playing at and you're listening to like the fills and the shit he's doing, like insane drummer, like so good. And the energy on here, like I said, really good. And some of my favorite elements of Motion City, because I think they are best when they're kind of high energy, power pop, pop punk, like whatever you want to call it. I don't know if those dudes love being called pop punk, but you know what I mean by listening to them. You know their sound. But this EP, if you're a fan, definitely go check it out, because another home run from him. And yeah, I mean, if you missed In the Drink, go check that out too. I love that album. I still play a lot of songs off that record on the radio show. That one has definitely stayed in rotation the last 3 years. Bruce Lee Band, Mike Park, his band put out a single, first one in quite a long time, Division in the Heartland. Go check that one out. Tiger's Jaw put out a new record. We're gonna play something off that here in a minute. I Won't Care How You Remember Me. I really like that album title. And I gotta say, like, I've seen Tiger's Jaw live a few times because they're opening from other bands and stuff. So I've seen them live a few times. They're fine. They're always good live. I enjoy them, but I've never been like huge on them. I've known them for years, but just never was that into them. And this new record is amazing. I love it. They definitely got me. They finally got me into them, like where I'm really like, I got to go back and check out the other records. They're just one of those bands. Like, they were never bad, but they were like, and again, I don't want to talk about it too much because you'll hear it next week. But I kind of talked about this with Joey about the Menzingers, where like the Menzingers for a long time, for me, at least for a few years when I discovered them, were just okay. I was like, these songs I hear are fine, but I'm not like, I'm not running out to buy their records and stuff. And then I just heard the right songs and it all clicked. And I think that's the thing with Tiger's Jaw now. I'm like, I never disliked them, but I never heard anything that made me go, I gotta go listen to more. And this new record did it for me. I absolutely love it. So we'll play something here in a minute off that. D-Cracks put out Serious Issues. Hanelli put out Black Snow. Radical, which we'll play this single. Adam Lobrock from Homegrown, which I absolutely love. He has not done much music in quite a while, and is awesome to see him back doing it. His new his new project, Radical, put out their first single, Misfit Toys, and go check them out. He's all over Instagram with that, and YouTube and stuff. And he's also, here's the other thing, he's doing some acoustic covers, not even really covers, but he's doing Homegrown songs acoustic on his YouTube page. That man's voice has not changed. He can sing so good. He sounds just like he did like on Kings of Pop, and he's covering like those, not really covering, those are his songs, but he's doing those songs, and it's like his voice still sounds the same. Like, and you got to think now, that's almost 20 years later. Kings of Pop came out like 02, 03, and he's still hitting those notes. Sound great. And Radical is really good. I'm gonna play this on here. I might have to see if he is down to come on here. I know he's been doing the podcast and radio show circuit lately, talking about Radical, and I would absolutely love to have him on. I love Homegrown. I love this new song, and I also shout out to him the other day on our Instagram page. I posted. I've been posting lately, just getting nostalgic or missing live shows I've been putting up. I finally have a reason. All those shitty videos you take on your phone at shows, like they're finally coming in handy, because now we can't go to shows. I'll post them on Instagram. At least the halfway decent ones. I mean, if they sound like total shit, I won't post them. If the sound quality is at least halfway decent and you can tell what the song is and everything, I'll throw them up there. But I did just put one up of the starting line the last time I saw him at 4-Chord Music Fest in Pittsburgh in 2017, and he commented on that on the Power Chord Hour page. Adam did, from Radical and Homegrown, and just said how great Kenny's, funny enough, I'm talking about how great his vocals have came with age, like how his vocals still sound great and are so strong. And he left a comment on that starting line video about how Kenny still sounded so good, like all these years later, like voices still sounds like fire, which was very cool. It was an honor. And also, I mean, as a huge Drive-Thru fan, to have Adam Lobrock of Homegrown commenting on your video about Kenny Vasoli of the Starting Line is, I mean, that's as pop punk as it gets, and just really, really badass. So that just made me smile. It's the little things that that get you. Moving on with the new music, Adult Magic put out their Leftovers EP. Safety put out Greetings from the Sunshine State. Guided by Voices with, I mean, album 1000. I don't know. I mean, there's really no one writes more songs than Robert Pollard, and I mean, another one who is just basically a living god. I mean, really, like, no one before him or after him I think will ever like be as a prolific songwriter as that man. But a new one from them, Trust Them Now. New one from the Worriers with the Old Friends EP, and Sincere Engineer, which I am always stoked for new music. And another one, just like with Devin K releasing a lot of singles lately, we got another single from Sincere Engineer with Out of Reach, which absolutely amazing. I know they are going to be putting out a full length sometime later this year, and I'm so excited for that. Rombithian, I mean, it's insane. That's been out now, I think, almost 4 years. Yeah, almost 4 years. Came out like fall of 2017, and to get the follow up, I'm stoked. But these last few ones that they've put out, Trust Me and Tourniquet, and now Out of Reach, these have all been really, really good. So it's so damn good. We're gonna open the little block of music now with it right here. So here's Sincere Engineer with their new single Out of Reach, right here on the March Rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right here on your March rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast, that was Tiger's Jaw with Heaven Apart off their new record, I Won't Care How You Remember Me. Before that was Radical with their debut single, Misfit Toys. And opening up that block of music was Sincere Engineer with their latest single, Out of Reach. I love all those. Go support all those bands. I'll put links to their band camps in the description or whatever the hell. And actually, you know what? Bandcamp Friday, if you're listening to this week that this comes out on the 29th, don't forget April, I think that'd be April 2nd, this Friday is Bandcamp Friday. So if you like what you just heard, I'll put those on there. I think Sincere Engineer and Tiger's Jaw are on Bandcamp. I'll have to look. I know both of them are actually on Hopeless Records, so I don't know. I'll have to, if that makes a difference. I don't know if Hopeless bands are on Bandcamp or not. Maybe they are. I don't know. I'll have to look. I just know not all labels are. Radical, I'm pretty sure is. I'll tell you what, if you don't see the links in the description of this episode, that means that they weren't on Bandcamp, and I'm too fucking lazy to go back and cut this part out. So that's what that means if it's not down there. But anyway, if it's not, go grab that music somewhere else, because Tiger's Jaw just put out an amazing record, and go support Adam. This is the first, this is him getting back into music after such a long time, so very cool. And I mean, Sincere Engineer, one of the best newer bands, I mean, been doing it now for like 4 years, and Deanna and everyone else in that band is just always so damn good. Yeah, I absolutely love her songwriting, and great voice. So before we close up here for our March rundown, we got a few little music news announcement things. And ska punk legends, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, have announced the release of their 11th record. It is coming out May 7th, very, very soon, and the new record is titled When God Was Great, and it's going to be released on Tim Armstrong's Hellcat Records. I believe this might be their first release on Hellcat. I may be wrong. If it's not, it's only like their second, because I know just like an album or two ago, they released a bunch of albums on like Side 1 Dummy. So this may be their first. If it's not, it's like only their second. But not only is Tim putting it out on Hellcat, but Tim Armstrong is also co-producing the record along with longtime Bosstones collaborator Ted Hutt. And the band has released a music video for the song I Don't Believe in Anything. So that is on their YouTube page. Go check that out, and you get a little taste of what it's going to sound like. I'm excited. I'm not like... The Bosstones aren't like my number one band, but anything they put out is always good, and they're one of those bands who, again, they don't put out music they're not a band who like puts something out every year, every 2 years, but I feel like they always put something out that fans tend to like, so that's exciting. I'll definitely check that out. I know I've talked about it a bunch on here though too. It's like ska is in a great place again, for the first time in a long time, but I mean the last few years. Huge, I think you got to really give credit to some of the newer bands like the Interrupters. I mean, the Interrupters were a big one, I think, and really because She's Kerosene was really getting some radio airplay, and they were really picking up some traction, and you were like hearing ska on the radio again. And there's a bunch of others too, but I mean, they're the big one that comes to mind. I mean, even bands who maybe aren't even on the Interrupters level, you know, in like terms of getting like mainstream radio play, but like Bite Me Bambi, who I've been playing on the radio show lately, amazing new ska band. I mean, We Are the Union aren't new, like those are ones that you gotta give credit. They were doing it like when no one else was doing ska. You know what I mean? Like there were, you know, besides the one, you know, you have your Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake and Goldfingers and bands that have, you know, continued on. But I mean, as far as new ska bands forming, I mean, they're ones, just like I say, Survey Says, who is now Keep Flying. I was blanking there for a second, but they're now Keep Flying, and they're still great. But you know, like when they were doing Survey Says, I mean, an amazing ska band at a time where no one was doing ska, you know. So I mean, shout out to them. But yeah, the last few years though, we've been getting from both older ska bands are putting out great stuff. I know Goldfingers put out some pretty good stuff lately. And you know, Less Than Jake put out a great new record last year. A lot of the older ska bands are putting out some good stuff, but the best thing is seeing all these new ones pop up, and it's actually really, really good. Like it even gets me interested in ska again. It gets me kind of more interested than I probably was there for a while. So I'm pretty stoked. A cool little thing going on in April here, a memorial celebration for Walter Lure is going to be streamed on April 22nd from the Bowery Electric in New York City. And April 22nd is going to be what would have been Walter's 72nd birthday. He did pass away last year in August, I believe. So it's almost been a year since his passing. And the celebration is going to have tons of live performances. The lineup, I mean, there's probably 20 people on the lineup. So I without even just going through all of them, you can find the poster online. And I know I've posted it, I think, on our Instagram. And if I haven't, I know I've put it on our stories. If it's not on our regular, I'll throw it in there too soon. But some of the big ones, Clem Burke of Blondie, Glenn Matlock of the Sex Pistols, Legs McNeil, Ivan Julian from Richard Hell and the Voidoids, Jesse Malin, former bandmate Mick Rossi, who was playing with him up until his passing in the LAMF band, and many, many more. There's going to be tons. Now, it is going to be streamed on April 22nd, and it's actually going to be recorded there at the Bowery like April 19th, I believe, and there are limited tickets, actually. They are going to let limited amount of people go to that. So if you are interested, you can go to the actual show. I don't know how many people. I know it's pretty limited, and you know, all the, you know, I'm sure all the precautions and everything. But yeah, if you're interested in that, I believe April 19th. If you're in the New York City area, you can go see it recorded. But if not, like the rest of us, you can wait for April 22nd. It will be out, and they're going to be performing Walter's songs throughout his entire career. Songs from the Waldos, Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, the Blessed, the Hurricanes, and the Heroes. And you can grab your tickets on RollingLiveStudios.com and theBoweryElectric.com. And it also is going to go to a good cause because a portion of the proceeds are going to go towards or go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Children's Research Hospital. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. They're doing that. It's insane to think it's been almost a year. You know, I mean, it's the same. I know. I did a little thing the week that he passed. We played. I remember we had, actually, speaking of Bill McShane earlier, I remember we had Bill McShane on talking about the new Ultimate Fake Book record from last year, The Preserving Machine. Amazing record. But his episode aired the same week that Walter died. So I remember on the radio show, we played a huge chunk of just stuff from all over, you know, all throughout Walter's career. And I was kind of sad I couldn't do it with, you know, I love the New York Dolls as well. And Sylvan passed away kind of, I think around the time we're on break, so I never really got to do that for him, because he was another. I'd played tons of New York Dolls, you know, the week that happened, because that was another one I was really bummed at, you know, because those are the last guys. Like, I mean, as far as New York Dolls goes, David Johansen's now the last one. As far as the Heartbreakers, all of them are gone. I mean, technically, Richard Hell was in there in the very, very beginning. So, I mean, he's still alive. But the LAMF, the lineup, you know, the Heartbreakers, the actual, you know, the lineup people think of, they're all gone, you know. So it's always sad when those guys, you know, because there, you know, there weren't many left. and just very sad. And I forgot too, that it's funny. It was 70, so he passed away at 71, and I mean like fairly, I mean really like that's somewhat young, you know what I mean? Like it seems like, when you think about it, somewhat young, but as far as being a heartbreaker, I mean, he definitely outlived the rest of them. I know Billy Rath, he passed away, I think in his 60s. I think he may have been like in his 60s when he passed, but he passed, I think he passed almost like maybe like 2013, 2014. It's been a while. But yeah, it's cool they're doing this. It's cool that those proceeds are going to a good cause, and I think I'm gonna have to check that out. I've said it. I don't check out every live stream. Like I get it. You have to do it. I mean, and I don't think it's going anywhere, and I don't think it should. But I really have to be into something to watch them. I love Quarantunes, and I watch that like any chance I can, because I always like that. It's almost like a variety show in that sense. But there's a live stream I'll definitely check out. A lot of great bands, and I would love to hear a lot of those guys play that stuff, including Ivan Julian, amazing guitar player who I don't feel like you hear enough, and was really, I mean, listen to the stuff he's playing in the Voidoids. I would love to hear him take on some Walter songs, whether it be the Heartbreakers, the Waldos, or any of his other bands. So I'm excited for that. And one more little piece of news here. Not even news. I just thought this was kind of cool. And more than anything, because it almost sounds like I'm promoting this for Tom DeLonge. But really, I just think if you're a Blink fan, it's kind of neat. Like, even if you don't want to buy the stuff, I just had a kick looking at it. But to make some space for new gear for Angels and Airwaves, Tom DeLonge has just set up a brand new Reverb page, and to sell some gear from both Blink-182 and Ava. And Reverb, I mean, they've been doing that a bunch. Not only is it a great website to buy instruments from and shit, just used gear, but I know I always enjoy these. That's why I wrote this one down to talk about, because artists are doing this more. I notice on Reverb, where they put up a page and just put up all their old shit, and is kind of cool. And Tom's posted over 100 items so far, including Blink touring amps like Mesa Traxxas and a Marshall JMP, or actually a bunch of those, I think, the JMP ones. He put up more than one. And tons of other items Tom has used over the years. I saw some synths on there, some road cases. I kind of wish I could have grabbed one that said Blink-182 on it. That would have been kind of cool. Guitar pedals and more. And so yeah, I mean, if you want to check that out, it's on Reverb. You can go buy a piece of pop punk history. But also you can just check out the items that have been sold too, which I think, again, which is why I brought this up, not because I think Tom DeLonge needs you to go buy his stuff. I don't know that he needs the money for it, but just more of it's kind of cool to go through his shit. I know he's posted them before in the past. The thing is his first time on Reverb, but I know throughout the years he's sold gear. And like, I was talking about earlier about the shit that I ask some of our guests. Like, I'm a gear nerd when it comes to that. I love to know what people are using and what they used on stuff. So I like going through and seeing this. I know a good chunk of it's sold, but you can still go buy a bunch of more. It looks like a lot of the stuff that's left now on there are like rack effects and like studio, like some more studio stuff than live gear. It seems like a lot of his live gear sold the fastest. But again, it was really cool. And I gotta say, I think we talked about this on the Dogs Eating Dogs episode. See, that's where it gets weird, because I know I talked about that with Zach and Kyle, but the mics might have been off. I don't remember. But it was the same way with Joey Cobra. When I interviewed him a couple weeks ago, I had to go back and listen to our first episode, because me and him did kind of the same thing. Like, we talked for like an hour and a half before the mics were on, and we talked like another hour and a half after the mics were off. So it's like I couldn't remember what we actually talked about or not on the episode, because I didn't want to repeat myself. And yeah, I can't remember if we got into it or not, but I thought it was going to be really like expensive. You know what I mean? Like, you were going to pay a huge markup because it was Tom DeLonge. But honestly, it's pretty affordable in my opinion. Like, the stuff on there is like actually in a like in a price range where you could just buy it to use it. You know what I mean? Like, it's shit that you could pay to use and just kind of be like, oh, cool. Like, Tom DeLonge used to own this. Like Tom used this. So, I always get a kick out of those on those Reverb pages. And it is, you kind of got to look through, because I feel like sometimes you'll get really neat things where it's like, this was the amp that I used on like, this legendary album and stuff. And then you get other things where it's like, it was owned by them. Like, you know, I mean, maybe it was never even used by them, but it was owned by them. You know, you kind of start getting in degrees of that. But I always enjoy looking at those Reverb pages. And I mean, if you're a Blink fan and, you know, a fan of the shit we talk about on here, I feel like it may be worth a gander at the shit Tom has posted. I love seeing that stuff. Plus, I mean, I love including like Enema of the State has the greatest pop punk tone of any pop punk record. Like if I'm talking about like my dream tone, really, like as far as like just a pop punk is concerned, just a distorted kind of sound like that. I mean, I would say Enema of the State for sure. So he's one of those ones where I love seeing the gear he's had through the years and how he's gotten some of those tones. And Jerry Finn was also, I think, a big part of that because he seemed to really get how to, not just Blink. I mean, just Jerry Finn was so amazing with the tones and shit that he would get for like all bands. And I'm like, I definitely think he had a play in kind of helping steer Tom in the right direction. But yeah, kind of neat. But that is our little music news, our little things from the month, and that is our March rundown. I'm very excited. Yeah, check back next week for my interview with Joey Cobra, and stay connected with the show. We're online at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're on Spotify. I put up playlists from the radio show there every week. If you miss the radio show or can't tune in, you can go you can listen to everything that I play on the radio show on there. You just won't get to hear my sweet, sweet voice in between songs. And the radio show, though, as well, if you want to check that out, every Friday night on 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York. We've been doing it now for 5 years, insane to think. But that is every Friday night, 10 Eastern to midnight. And if you're not in Jamestown, you can listen at WRFALP.com. If you're ever bored, go listen to, you stream the station on there. So you can listen, you listen to it live while I'm on air. But you can just stream the station, and there's tons of great shit on there. So, I mean, just check out WRFA as a whole, because, I mean, I can't thank them enough for giving me a place to do the show for 5 years now. So, yeah, I mean, shout out to them, and also letting us use those studios. So, yeah, Joey Cobra, that'll be next week. And for both, they'll be on the radio show, play a bunch of stuff with him after, kind of like I did with Gordon and Luke this month, where I kind of let them pick the playlist for the radio show. Kind of going to do the same thing with Joey. And also that big thank you for the month to Luke Bentham, to Gordon Raphael, and to the Illinois Bad Boys, Zach and Kyle, thanking all of them for really being the reason why all this month's episodes I thought were really good and really fun, and much better than this one I'm doing by myself here right now. But yeah, hit us up on there online. Also, powerchordhour@gmail.com. Hit me up if you got anything. You know, also, I mean, if if any of our listeners are like, you know, I mean, if you own a business or some shit, you have being very professional, if you own a business or some shit, we are always looking for sponsors. I normally don't I always forget to like say that on here, but I mean, if you ever have interest in sponsoring the show, hit me up. We always have, sporadically I'll get sponsors and stuff, but I've never, we really don't have like long, I've never really like been in talks with doing like a long-term sponsorship or anything with someone. But, if you have something to promote or something, hit me up at powerchordhour@gmail.com. I would love to get more sponsors for the show. And also hit me up on there if you just want some free stickers. I'm giving those out. They're the most popular promo item we've ever done. People love free stickers. So if you're one of those people, hit me up for those. Subscribe and rate the show. If you rate us on iTunes, go give us a review and screenshot it to me. I do have some Power Chord Hour t-shirts. I have like, I think 1 or 2 left. So yeah. So hit me up for those, powerchordhour@gmail.com. If you rate and review and send me a screenshot, you don't just the stickers are free. The other ones, you got to rate and review in order to do that. But yeah, so for the Power Chord Hour, until next week, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.